Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of On Air. Very excited today to be joined by Ari Galper. I'll let Ari tell you a little bit more about himself in just a moment. Bit of background, I first listened to Ari talk in Sydney back in, I think it was 2008 or 2009, and followed his journey since there. Still to this day, coach and train using many of the philosophies that I've learned from Ari's talks over the years and from his content. Ari is the world's #1 authority on trust-based selling. He's also the CEO of Unlock the Game. And Ari, thank you so much for joining us today. How are things, first and foremost?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm very much looking forward to our conversation today.
Good stuff. Well, great to have you on. As I say, been following your content for many a year. I'm obviously you're over in Sydney. A lot of our audience are in the UK, but we do have a global audience to some degree. Keen to give people context for those people that don't know you. Could you give us maybe just 2 minutes? Who's Ari and who Unlock the Game and what do you do?
Sure. So you probably caught the accent. I'm from the US, originally from California. I've been living in Sydney for the last 20 years. There's a story behind that, of course. But I specialize in a unique field called trust-based selling for the last 20 years. I've only been doing this. We're finding how to help people redefine the definition of selling in itself, meaning how to end the chasing game, not chasing prospects and numbers game, and really how to improve conversion rate based on your ability to build trust with people. And there's a whole mindset shift that we'll talk about today, which is away from the sale itself to deep trust and how to authentically build that trust rapidly so you can onboard somebody even on one conversation. That's my new book coming out this year called The One Call Sale. So a lot to talk about if your audience is all about sales.
Love it. Fantastic. It certainly is all about sales, and we talk about revenue growth. And what we like to do is dig into a topic. And I know this is a topic that you, as say, you've been talking about for a long time. I'm keen to just maybe unpick the basics. So what is trust-based selling? What should we be thinking about? And I think you touched on there, it being a mindset shift. I'm keen to hear a little bit more about that.
Sure. Well, typical selling is all about focusing on getting the goal at the end, the sale. We're wired and conditioned to move things forward linearly down towards the end. What we have discovered is if your mindset is focused on the next step all the time and you're attempting to build a relationship with someone but still moving them forward, you're not actually building trust with them. And we discovered that relationship building and trust building are mutually exclusive, meaning you don't even have to build a relationship with someone to make the sale. In many cases, they don't want to become your friend. They just want to have their problem solved. They know it's not always authentic. And in many cases, they don't have to like you. But if you can basically build what I call a moment of vulnerability with them in your sales process and allow them to feel comfortable telling you the truth, you'll have a much better and higher conversion rate that way versus chasing what I call ghosts. People say things like, sounds good, send me information, follow up with me, and you spend your time chasing people.
I remember the notion of getting to the truth, getting somebody to open up to you quite well from listening to you talk over the years. Why is getting the truth out of a prospect so important?
Because what happens is in the sales process now, everyone has their guard up. We have what I call sales armor on around us, a shield to protect ourselves from the bullets that come our way, the rejection. They have a shield up also to protect themselves from sales pressure. So unless you're aware of those shields and you know how to remove the shields and melt them down, you'll always be fighting a battle with people, meaning they'll only give you what you want to hear, but now you need to know. Because we're so conditioned to qualify a person and move them forward, but we're not taught ever how to go deep below the surface of people, what I call going down the iceberg, where you can really understand and get to their truth so you know where they stand, so you're not playing games with them anymore.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because you touched on something I'm keen to learn a little bit more about, the mutual exclusivity between trust and relationship. That's, yes. I guess that would be surprising for a lot of people. Tell us a little bit about what you found there.
Definitely. This is quite contrarian. I will admit in advance that a lot of my work, as you know, is contrarian thinking. But of course, in sales for years, we've been told by the gurus, your job is to build a relationship with someone pre-sale so they get to know you and like you. Once they like you, then you can do business together, right? That's the common notion around that. Well, That's fine if you like long sales cycles and lots of numbers to play with to make that happen. But we discovered, like a doctor and a patient relationship, if you meet a doctor, they don't try and become your friend, right? They say to you, "What does it hurt?" And you say, "My shoulder right here." And they say, "Let me take a look." Right there. Oh, wow. I think we're getting an X-ray right away to figure out what the problem is there. And they do an X-ray, show the X-ray, and say, "That's the problem." And you say, "Thank you so much, doctor, for helping me understand my problem." That's a prescription to you, and you're on your way out the door. You see, but in sales, what do? "Hey, how's it going? Nice to meet you. How's the weather?" We try and put this kind of relationship on, which isn't always authentic. They know it at hello. They know it's a game. They're just playing the game with you. They don't really want to become your friend. What they want is their problem solved. So what we teach our clients to do is and I tell them this, you build a relationship with someone after the sale, not before the sale. Before the sale, you provide them clarity on their issues, not value on the solution. It's a different way of thinking about this because we're so taught to do a demo, to do free consulting, do education, talk about our solution. But when you think about it from trust perspective, real trust is when they say to you or they feel from you, "He just gets me. He understands me." And that level of depth comes from your ability to let go of your solution and focus in on their problem. And I tell my clients this, I say, fall out of love with your solution and fall in love with their problems.
Yeah, really interesting. Really interesting. I think you touched on the mindset piece earlier. It feels like we have to, in order to achieve this, we have to behave in a way that would be unnatural for us, and we have to sort of almost break down those habits that we have, which come from society rather than sales training, and also sales training. Let's get that clear. But society teaches us to be friends with everybody, build a relationship, and not be maybe asking some of those difficult questions or saying things in a way that you've actually thought about it rather than naturally.
You know what? We have to detox first. Detox from the old conditioning since the 80s. We've been taught that we're still carrying this today to be able to be, you're right, courageous and bold and ask the hard questions up front with people so you know where you stand. You're not just playing a game with them, because otherwise you're just playing a dance with them. You have a long sales cycle, multiple steps, and you never know where you stand with people. So our whole concept is the sale is lost at the beginning of your process and not the end. Yeah. See, we're taught the sales lost at the end of the process, but we discovered if trust isn't created at hello, the sale is lost there and not at the end.
So I'm keen to get from you some words, some sentences, some quotes that you might use or you might coach into your clients that maybe the average salesperson isn't aware of or isn't using. So maybe we can talk about the cold call for a minute. I know that the couple of bits that I've learned from you over the years around how to structure a cold call and the types of things, and it starts with, like you say, right at the beginning of the conversation. What guidance would you give around people who are making cold calls and how to approach that?
Well, the typical model is this one, right? "Hi, my name is, we are a, do you have a few minutes today?" And the minute you hear that, what goes through your mind?
Salesperson, go away.
It's over at hello. That's how fast it's over. So we are very sensitive to creating defensive mechanisms that put the guard up. And so here's how we begin it. "Hi, Mike. My name's Ari, and I'm hoping you can help me out for a moment." Now, the human nature, when someone asks you for help in that way, your instinct is to say, because you're not sure where they're from yet. They could be a customer, they could be a CEO. You don't know who they are. Your instinct is going to be, "How can I help you?" That's called a two-way dialogue at hello. Then you say, "I'm just giving you a call, giving you a ring to see if you'd be open to some different ideas and insights that could address your issues of," and you fill in the blanks, which is you fill in the problems you help them solve. You do not pitch the solution. You problem-centric the conversation around their issues to have them acknowledge it first, then you back into steps after that.
The word open is an interesting one, isn't it? Because that's a really powerful phrase. It's almost as if you're saying to people, well, people would be, I don't know what the word is, embarrassed not to be open-minded, and it's almost, you're almost leading them in the direction that you want them to go.
The word open replaces the word interested. It's a classic sales word. Would you be interested in this? But when you say open to someone, that doesn't force them into a yes or a no. It creates an open space for them to share the truth with you right away.
How much of it, in your experience, on a particular cold call, how much of it is it around the words versus the tone and the way that you use those words?
Well, actually, interesting, good question, by the way, because languaging and tonality and delivery are equally important. Let me give you an example right now. Let's say you're on the phone with somebody for a first conversation. It's a first call with a prospect. It's going really well, good chemistry, good fit. Call comes to a close. Normally in sales, we say things like what? We say, great, how about we move things forward? Have a cup of coffee, get together, next step, Zoom call, whatever. We're conditioned to move things forward when we qualify someone, right? But what can happen if you attempt to move somebody forward and they aren't ready yet? What can you break with them right there early in the process?
I see, you're breaking trust.
Right. So same scenario, exact same scenario, but our mindset and our languaging and our delivery. Call is going well, good chemistry, good opportunity. Call comes to a close, right? Saying, hey, how about we move forward? What we say instead is this. We say, where do you think we should go from here?
So you're giving
I'll say it again. Where do you think we should go from here? And yes, you're right. You're shifting the power to them. And when you say that to somebody, they're usually in a state of shock. They can't believe somebody asked them what they want to do. It's unheard of because they're so used to being pulled down a process what they know of right away. That's where their guard goes up and they hold back from you the truth.
How much of this is about differentiating yourself? Because what I'm hearing is, this is what salespeople typically do. This is what I'm going to do, which is different. It stands out. Like you say, you wouldn't say something they always hear from a salesperson and feel an element of shock. They would feel, this is a pattern, I'm used to it. So it feels like that differentiation is a really key part of the strategy.
Well, interesting enough that we live in a commoditized world right now, where from the market's point of view, we all look the same. Software, recruiting, it looks the same from the outside in. You can't differentiate yourself on your solution anymore, unfortunately, because unless you're Apple Computer, it's very hard. But you can differentiate your company based on your approach to the market. If your sales approach is trust-based, it's unique, that becomes your differentiation. I've got clients who tell me their prospects thank them for their approach. You're the only one who spoke with me with decency and trust. You're not trying to sell me like everybody else. They are being thanked for the approach because the approach becomes the category of one differentiator over your solution.
I'm keen to just understand the difference between that early stage, let's say cold call, top of funnel, and then when you get into second, third conversational meeting. I know you've got the book coming up about, one conversation sale or whatever it is, and we'll talk about that in a little while. But we all know that there are times where that's not possible and where you need to have multiple meetings. So when you get into that discovery and nurture phase, what shifts? What are the sorts of things that you're doing that allow you to build trust with a prospect that your typical salesperson might not be?
Well, the typical person in sales, when they have a couple calls with someone and they sense an opportunity, they'll immediately start talking about how they can help them solve that problem. They try and move things to a next step. What we do is we don't go forward, we go down. What I mean down, what I call the iceberg with someone, where you go below the surface, what their actual issues are. You unpack the issues, you ROI the problems, and you ask them this question. You say, is this a priority for you to solve once and for all? Or is it something you have to live with for now and not address at the moment? And I'm okay either way. See, the idea is they have to own the problem first. And you have to wait until they say to you the magic phrase, which is, how can you help me? That's so hard in sales because we're so anxious about losing the deal. We're so teed up to move them forward. We don't know how to create the space to allow the other person to ask us for help. But that's what trust is. Trust is when the other person feels comfortable asking you for help. We jump in prematurely. We do free consulting, free education. We talk about our demos. We cannot wait to show them the solution. But let me tell you what's funny about this. They don't care about your solution. What they care about is if you're the one to solve their problem or not. See, they're asking themselves the entire time, do I trust him? Do I trust him? Do I trust him? They're not asking themselves, let me see the. They don't care about the clicks and they're not the expert. You are, right? So we have to understand our job is to get out of our solution mode and become problem-centric, to be able to unpack their issues, identify the losses and the impacts because of it, and ask them if they want to own it or not. If they want to own their problem and get it solved, fine. If not, we're not a fit. This is about the doctor-patient model, where they're the patient, you're the doctor. You have to diagnose their problem first, thoroughly, before you can write a prescription, right? If a doctor did that, wrote a prescription without diagnostic, they go to jail. It's malpractice. But what do? Let me show you what I got. We can help you with that. We have case studies. We have testimonials. Been around for 20 years. I can show you a demo. See, we think they care about how we solve the problem. They really don't. What they care about is, are you the one or not?
I love the fact. I feel like you have to be comfortable being uncomfortable for a while as you learn this. And I'd imagine your clients, even the way you use silence in this conversation, I can envisage you doing it in a sales call where you ask a question and sit back with that lovely, that lovely, almost smug smile on your face, as if to say, I know what I'm doing and I'm waiting for your response, and I'm happy with that and I'm comfortable with that. You're clearly comfortable doing that. I'd imagine most people would be fairly uncomfortable doing that the first 5, 10, 15, 20 times and would be desperate to get the next word out of their mouth. How do you help people through that? Because there's a real learning curve there, I'd imagine.
There's a transformation that has to happen. And the transformation is you have to be okay with letting go of your goal. Being okay with letting go of the sale. Because ironically, here's the irony of all this. When you let go of your agenda and you walk into their world and you begin to understand them better than they understand themselves, that's the sale happens. Not over here. See, we think the sale happens when we show them the value and then we try to get them to sign up. But then it's too late because they're going to say to you, this has been great conversation. Thank you so much. Let me think about this and give me a call next week. And you're like, okay, sounds good. And what do? You give them a call. You say, hi, I'm giving you a call to follow up. And I'm going to ask your audience right now to take an oath with me, a verbal oath, to remove one key phrase forever from the vocabulary, never ever use it again as of today. Here it comes. Never again use the phrase follow up ever again after this recording.
It's terrible, isn't it?
It's going to hurt. I know it's going to hurt people who heard this call right now going, what? Follow up? That's what you're supposed to be doing in sales. Well, what's the only industry in the world that uses the word follow up right now? Sales. Hi, I'm calling to follow up. I'm checking in, touching base. This is like 1980s languaging in 2022. They know when you say follow up, it's all about you, not them.
Yeah.
So instead of that, you say this. You say, I'm giving you a call, giving you a ring to see if you have any feedback on our previous conversation, any feedback on our last meeting, any feedback on a proposal. See, feedback's going away from the sale, not towards the sale. It's the opposite direction we've been taught to do all these years. We think our job is to move them where? Forward. When you move them forward, that puts pressure on them. They won't tell you this, of course. They'll be nice to you, and you'll feel like you had a good conversation, and you'll follow up with them. They won't call you back. Oh, it's just the way sales. It's a numbers game. Well, no, it's not. It's not about how many people you talk to anymore. It's about how good you are at trust building, not how many contacts you make.
It's interesting because I'm visiting all of these meeting rooms around the world where salespeople go, yeah, I had a lovely conversation. Really, I think they're going to buy. That gave me, they gave me really good signs that they're going to buy. They asked for a call back, or they said to give them a call next week for another meeting. And I'm thinking of all the millions of pounds or dollars in your case of pipeline that's sitting there without any trust whatsoever. It's a scary problem, isn't it?
If we actually defined all the money left on the table right now by companies who have their reps chasing people, it's a travesty. It's a whole economy we could turn around. People just realize it's not about how much you're making, it's how much you're losing, because you're not seeing the whole 80% that's not converting and why it's not converting. It's not your product, it's not the market, it's your team, your people. The way you're selling is broken, not the solution or the market.
Really interesting. Really interesting. How did you discover this? How did you end up in on this topic talking about this? Because I'm guessing, like everybody else, you were trained or learned on the job to sell a certain way and got in and then adapted and learned on the job, and then suddenly you had a moment of realization or a period of time where you evolved into realizing there was a different way of doing things.
I did have a moment, yes. It's a big moment. I'll share it with you right now. I used to be a sales manager in a software company 20 years ago, and an online website tracking software company. Now it's called Google Analytics. It's a website tracking tool. But back then we ran the first company around that, and I managed 18 sales reps underneath that. And fast growing business at the time, and I got the leads came across my desk. There were big opportunities. And this one call came in. I got the phone call. Big company. They're looking at a product. They asked for a demo on a conference call. And so we agreed to a conference call. And the day finally came on a Friday afternoon. I was in the conference room with my CEO, a closed door behind me, big long conference table, speaker phone in the middle of the table, the old school one, yep. Red lights on it. And I hit the speaker dial tone, dial the number. He picks it up. He says, "Hey, Ari, how's it going?" I said, "Good." And he says to me, "Ari, let us tell you who's with us today on the line." I said, "Great." Next thing I hear is, "My name's John, I'm CEO." I was like, "Oh, this is good." "My name's Chris, I'm head of IT." Even better. "This is Julie, I'm head of global marketing." Amazing. Everyone on this call was a decision maker. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen today. So I introduced myself, explained what we do. We all logged in together online. I started showing them a live demo of their data being collected in real time. I'm clicking around, showing them how it all works. And I heard this noise on the phone call like, wow, this is amazing. This is great. They start asking me all kinds of questions. How does it work? How do we install it? How does technology work? And of course, I had all the answers. I was competent, friendly, relationship-oriented. They had all the questions. I had all the answers. It was like a love fest on the phone. You know what I'm talking about?
I do.
It just felt so right. There was no resistance. I'm like, this is heaven. An hour goes by. They're loving it. I'm doing everything I'm taught to do by the sales gurus. Relationship building, rapport building, friendliness, everything that I should be doing. Knowledge, education, case studies. I was doing great. The call comes through close. My contact said to me, "Ari, we love this. This is great. Look, give us a call a couple of weeks, follow up with us, and we'll move this thing forward." I'm like, oh, thank you, God. I was so happy. I said my goodbyes. I took my hand, reached for the speakerphone on the speakerphone button to hit the off button. As I'm reaching for the off button, by complete accident, now it's the divine intervention, my thumb hit the mute button instead of the off button. And a small click happened, and they thought I hung up the phone. In that split second, a voice inside of me says, "Ari, go to the dark side. Be a fly in the wall. Go where no one's ever gone before in the world of sales." So I pulled my thumb back for a couple of seconds. They started talking amongst themselves, thinking I had left the call. Now, this is not a trick question. You may not even know the story already, but what would you expect to have heard on a call like that, typically?
Well, I do know the story, but based on your feedback, or on how the call went, that you'd expect them to be talking about about moving it forward, how the difference it would make to their business, how impressed they were with things.
Exactly. That's what I was waiting to hear. But let me share with you what I heard verbatim, word for word. That's why we're all here today. Here's what they said. They said, we're not going to go with him. Keep using him for more information and make sure we shop someplace else cheaper. Knife in heart twist. I was in a state of shock. I could not believe it. I snapped out of it, hit the off button to the wall, and I said to myself, what did I do wrong? I did everything I was supposed to do in sales. Friendly, rapport building, competent, technology, everything. And the first big epiphany hit me, that was this, that somewhere along the way, it has become socially acceptable not to tell the truth to people who sell, right?
Yeah.
It's okay to say things like, sounds good, send me information, we're definitely interested, call me next week, send me a proposal, without any intention of buying. And then I asked myself, why were they afraid to tell me the truth? Why all the games? Why all the wasted time? Why all this headache? And I realized the reason is there is an invisible kind of flow of pressure that's underneath every sales chat you have with someone in your sales process. And unless you know how to take the pressure out of the process, they'll always feel comfortable having their guard up, holding back from you, and pulling your strings to play the game with them. So we teach a methodology to crack that code, what I call unlock the game, to no longer be stuck in that old sales cycle and to build trust with people where they feel comfortable in the beginning telling you the truth.
Amazing. It's a great story. I've heard it before, and I loved it then. I love it now as well. It's happening every day across all sales team. You just don't know about it. And like you say, what a great opportunity to get a kick up the backside and realize that you can control this better. You can do something different. And you're right. That thing about buyers feeling comfortable lying. Where else in our life do most of us feel comfortable lying to people? But there's something
True.
about it. And my point here, and I think you'd agree with this, is that's on you as a salesperson. You can change that. Don't be a victim to it. Take control of it. Own that. And I think it's about the notion of getting them to trust you more than they trust themselves, more than they trust their own knowledge of the situation. They need to trust your knowledge of the situation, and that comes from your point, digging, what do you call it, it's the iceberg, right? It's digging under the surface and diagnosing the problem so that they can say to you, wow, okay, you get it. I think you use those words, and I trust you. And I think it's a fantastic point. Ari, it's very obvious what you do, and one of the podcast guests we've had on who's got the chance to talk about what you do as a living, and I think that's fantastic that people can really see the power of it. Keen to understand a bit more around kind of what sort of organisations do you help, who can you work with, and who should be getting in touch with you if they want to talk to you about that.
I just finished a call with a European client just before we spoke today. They have reps all over Europe right now, and have quite a few European clients because, interestingly enough, they work hard not to adopt the American way. They attempt to be relationship-based only.
Yeah.
It's like two extremes. Either it's this old way that we all hate, or it's the nice way, where you get to know people, relation meetings, cup of coffee, golfing, and they're struggling with converting their leads.
Yeah.
They're getting 2 out of 10 are converting. The rest just go away, or they're chasing people most of their days with phone calls, emails. I'm calling to follow up. So I'm helping them compress the sales cycle, improve their conversion by helping them understand how to manage those conversations in a way where they're the expert and they're selecting the client, not the other way around. See, what happens is we get shopped a lot. We get shopped by prospects. They say things like, oh, we're looking at you and two other people right now. We're shopping around and we're wanting to find a cheaper price. See, they think they're in a shopping mall on a shopping trip. And what do? We go, oh, come on into our store. Let me show you what we have. And if it's a great, see what we teach these teams to realize is that they think they're walking into the shopping mall with you, but really they're walking into your clinic and you're a doctor. And your job is to diagnose their problem. And when they walk into the clinic, and I'll give you an example right now. Let's say, I just told them this morning, let's say you're having a first Zoom call with somebody, through LinkedIn or contact or something, a first Zoom conversation with somebody, right? This is a pretty common scenario. You show up on Zoom, and what usually happens? We do things like what? We say, how's it going? Nice to meet you. What do you do? Oh, what do we do? Oh, it's all this sort of chit chat, rapport building, get to know each other a bit better. And then when the time comes, we sort of like start asking questions. I'm like, are you nuts? That's the worst thing to ever do. And I taught them how to shift the tables and hello gently, beautifully, and elegantly. And here's how it goes. You're on Zoom, you say hello, nice to meet you. Nice to meet you as well. And the first thing you say is this. You ask permission. If it's okay with you, can we take a step back for a moment? And can you walk me a bit through your story, a bit of your journey, your business challenges, and we're looking to get some help on, and we can go from there. Would you be okay with that? Now the ball's in their court, and they start talking and talking and talking. You're listening, and you're starting to listen for the problems they tell you. When they tell you their challenge, like whatever it might be, like we'll need some help getting new clients, that's when you start going down the iceberg. And you say things like this. You say, can you tell me a little bit more about that? How long has that been a problem for? What's the impact of that problem? How's it impacting your company by not getting enough clients for you right now? What are you losing because of it? How long has it been a problem for? Wow, that's pretty serious. Is this something that you want to prioritize to solve, or something just curious about getting some ideas about right now? What level of seriousness is this problem for you right now? This is the first call going down the iceberg and expanding the gap, the gravity of the problem. Because here's the thing, they will not admit to you the depth of their problems because they don't trust you yet.
Yeah.
They'll only give you the service level crumbs for you to chew on and grab and go after your demo. See, we think our job is to qualify and then present. Wrong. Your job isn't to qualify. Your job is to build trust first, which then out comes the qualification, not the other way around. See, what we do is we fact find. We don't trust build. We say, oh, how many things do you have? Really? How long have you been in business for? What's your IT spend this year? We start doing cross-examination like attorneys in a court. That's not trust building. It's a brand new skill every person who sells has to learn from the beginning.
Love
You
it.
got me going there.
Yeah, I know. I can tell. So I just sat back and kept quiet. It's I love it, and you know we've obviously got similar philosophies around this, and you know the notion of I preach a lot about how salespeople will ask one good question, and then we'll move on to the next question because they've got a series of questions that they have to ask, and totally miss the point of we digging deep as we refer to it as, and sort of going below the surface and really understanding the problem, because somebody will give you something. We're trained to move on, got to ask these 6 questions, got to qualify them in or out. It just doesn't make sense. If somebody's prepared to open up to you, even if it's only a 2 out of 10, if they're giving you the crumbs, it's our job as salespeople to ask the questions that allow them to go deeper, to get them to talk about it more. People love talking about themselves. We're giving them that opportunity, and we're missing it too much of the time.
And here's the thing, they may know what they want, but they don't know what they need. The clients themselves don't even understand the gravity and impact of their own problems. They don't want to talk about that. That's not fun and exciting. They'd rather go shopping for some software. They don't want to talk about their problems.
Yeah.
That's your job, you listeners, to put an x-ray machine on their problem and say, you got a serious problem here. You're losing this price per month because you don't have a way to track those widgets through your system. I mean, this is pretty serious. Do you realize that? That's what the doctor does. But sales reps go, oh, Let me show you I can help you solve that problem. I got a great solution for you. Let me show you. Come over here. See, we write the prescription before we fully diagnose the problem.
It's the medical equivalent of saying, hey, let me show you somebody else's x-rays. That's how I see it anyway. Ari, if people want to get in touch with you, so firstly, if they want to learn a bit more about trust-based selling and your philosophies, give you an opportunity to shout out. I know you've got a book coming out. There must be some other places that people can consume some content. How are they best to go and do that?
Well, my classic book, which is a bestseller, is called Unlock the Sales Game. And you can get that at unlockthegame.com. Just like it sounds, it's a free masterclass. You can actually watch a video of how I teach this live. You can watch the video there. And also on LinkedIn, connect with me, say hello. I do a live show there once a month called Stump the Guru, where you can jump in live and ask me your toughest sales challenge, and I'll answer it live for anyone who wants to jump on. So as you can see, there's no fear here, because after 20 years of doing this, I've mapped out every single scenario you can ever give to me, and I can turn it into a trust-based scenario and give you languaging to melt it away. And that's the power. When you step out of the conversation, you're above the conversation looking down, 360, you're in a power position. When you're caught in the middle of the conversation, you're not.
Love it. Love it. Ari, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed it. I love the fact that you've become more and more enthusiastic as the conversation's gone on as well. You've got really into it, which I think is fantastic. And that's why you're so great at what you do. Thank you for joining us. Really enjoyed learning from you and listening to you today. And I know that our audience would have learned a lot as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.